myopia, hypermetropia, astigmatism, accommodative errors, and presbyopia, etc. Today we will discuss aphakia. Aphakia means the very meaning of the word is absence of crystalline lens. Aphakia, that means absence of crystalline lens. The word meaning is absence of crystalline lens, but as far as our this thing is concerned, absence of crystalline lens in the pupillary area. That means lens may be there, but it is dislocated posteriorly or into the vitreous or removed for whatever reason. So the absence of a crystalline lens in the pupillary area is called as aphakia. So in aphakia, because there is absence of crystalline lens, the power of crystalline lens is 16 diopters. So the refractive state of the eye or the dioptric power of the eye is 60 diopters. So once the crystalline lens is not there in the refractive system, the eye becomes 42 diopters or 60 minus 16. That means the power of the eye will become 42 diopters. So that means the eye will become highly hypermetropic. So it's a sort of hypermetropia wherein the refractive error is around 10 diopters. And once there is no lens, there is complete absence of accommodation. And if you want to give correction, usually with specs, we need a 10 diopters lens. And again, for near vision correction, we should add 3 more diopters. That means for near vision, we need 13 diopters. For distant vision, we need 10 diopters. That means if we prescribe bifocal lenses, the upper portion will be having 10 dioptric convex lens, and the lower portion, which is meant for near vision, is having 13 diopters. So what is the problem with aphakic correction with glasses is the image magnification will be 30%. That means the object which we observe is magnified by 30%. Here in the lower, there are 2 pictures you can see. The bigger one with correction of aphakic glasses, you will see the object bigger. That means 30% of its size will become bigger. So you may question, what is the problem with magnification? So if that much magnification is there, then it results in anisometropia. So it results in binocular diplopia. That means the patient will see the 2 objects. Madam, yes, not moving. Not moving. Shall we close this one? I don't know much about these things. Okay, now it's okay. Now I got it. So if we give the disadvantage of the correction with aphakic glasses or with 10 diopters is usually, I told you, one is magnification, wherein the magnification is 30%, and there will be distortion of the objects. The distortion is of named as pincushion distortion will be there because of the high spherical correction. Then there is one more term, what we call roving ring scotoma. So all around there will be a scotoma. That is when the object suddenly appears into the visual field. The name being given is jack-in-the-box phenomenon. That means in the visual field you may not observe the object, and you observe it sometimes suddenly. So this is very dangerous for people who drives or for drivers. That is called as roving ring scotoma or jack in the box phenomenon. So how you identify the aphakia? First, the identification of the aphakia is there will be jet black pupil, the anterior chamber will be deep. If they underwent surgery recently, there may be a scar in the limbal area. There can be iridodonesis, and there is gross defect of vision. So that's how you identify aphakia. And the causes for aphakia is mainly surgeries, iatrogenic. Congenital absence of the lens is very rare, and the most common cause is the cataract surgery. When you do cataract surgery, when you damage the posterior layer, that is, you cannot place a lens and that eye becomes aphakic. So the damage to the posterior capsule is one of the main cause for aphakia in cataract surgeries. So the another cause is a trauma. In trauma wherein the lens may be displaced into the posterior vitreous. There also the eye becomes aphakic. So now we will talk something about the contact lenses. One more just. Yeah, the correction of the aphakia can be done either with specs or with contact lenses or secondary implantation of IOL. The secondary implantation of IOL can be scleral fixed IOLs or iris fixed IOLs. And we'll talk something about the contact lenses. So we are having three types: scleral or corneal contact lenses, rigid or soft contact lenses, then extended wear or daily wear contact lenses. So the rigid ones are made up of PMMA, that is polymethyl methacrylate. Then the soft one is by HEMA. So what are the indications for contact lenses? What are the advantages or where they are needed? So the indications can be optical. Optical means just instead of specs or spectacle correction, you can give contact lenses. And the therapeutic regions. In therapeutic regions, postoperative LASIK surgeries or in corneal ulcers where they are threatened to rupture or where there are punctate erosions of the cornea, we prescribe or we advise contact lenses. Then cosmetic contact lenses. The purpose of cosmetic, you must have seen in pictures wherein the color of the eyes will be blue or red or different colors. That is cosmetically given contact lenses. Then you have tinted contact lenses. In the cases of aniridia or albinism, because there will be a lot of light entering into the eye, in order to prevent, that means the purpose of the iris will be done by giving tinted contact lenses, wherein the peripheral part will be painted. Then preventive purpose. The preventive purpose is in case of trichiasis. You know what is trichiasis? It is the misdirection of the eyelashes. So the eyelashes will be rubbing over the cornea. So in order to prevent the contact of the eyelashes to the cornea, we can prescribe contact lenses so that the prevention will be done. Similarly, in exposure keratitis, you know, the reason for exposure keratitis is lag of thalamus, wherein the inability to close the eye, lag of thalamus. So in those cases also, if you haven't taken proper care, then corneal ulcers, it results in corneal ulcers. So to prevent that, you can prescribe Again, similarly, prevention of symblepharon in chemical burns. There also you can prescribe contact lenses for the prevention of symblepharon. Symblepharon is nothing but the adhesion of the conjunctiva, palpebral conjunctiva with the bulbar conjunctiva. So in chemical burns, that is one of the complication. So in order to prevent the symblepharon, we can prescribe contact lenses. So now you see the indications for contact lenses can be optical, therapeutic, cosmetic, then for preventive purposes. So what are the advantages of the contact lenses over the specs? The main advantage is there will be more visual field and the anisometropia, especially in cases of unilateral aphakia. Say for example, one side is aphakic correction and another side is simple refractive correction. So that results in anisometropia. That means more than 2.5 diopters refractive error between the two eyes results in anisometropia, and anisometropia results in diplopia. So in order to prevent the diplopia, you can give contact lenses. And cosmetically, they are more pleasing. So the main advantages are more visual field, prevention of diplopia or correction of anisometropia, and cosmetic. Of course, among these, the cosmetic purpose, they are most of the times, they are prescribed for cosmetic purpose. Or the people or the patient demands contact lenses for cosmetic purposes. So then what are the disadvantages? The disadvantage is a country like ours, one is they are more expensive, then they may result in giant papillary conjunctivitis or corneal ulcers. Especially the most dreaded one is the acanthamoeba corneal ulcer. Okay, briefly we have discussed about the advantage and disadvantage of contact lenses. Now we have discussed, as I told you, the refractive errors in brief: myopia, hypermetropia, presbyopia, astigmatism, and aphakia. Now, having known something about the refractive errors, now how you will estimate the refractive error? How you will come to a particular prescribing or the dioptric power needed for that particular eye? So the estimation of refractive error, it is an art, you can say. So it will be done by the retinoscopy. Retinoscopy, it is also called as skiascopy or shadow test, what we call. So don't go by the name retinoscopy. That means it is the visualization of the retina. It is a misnomer actually. Retinoscopy, the purpose is it is an objective estimation of the refractive error. By doing retinoscopy, we will arrive to a particular power, what power is needed for that patient. Then we do subjective correction. That means retinoscopy is an objective estimation by the instruments or by the equipment given. You objectively estimate what is the power needed to that particular person. So for that, we are having two procedures. One is either with retinoscope mirror or with streak retinoscope. Of late, of course, most of the refractive errors are being corrected by autorefractometer. Retinoscopy almost becoming an academic this thing. Of course, still it is more useful in children, but mostly nowadays the refractive errors, the objective estimation of the refractive errors is being done by autorefractometer. Then subjective verification. What do you understand by subjective verification? That is, by retinoscopy, you are objectively estimating the refractive error, and with the help of that figures that you have arrived by retinoscopy, you are prescribing the glasses or specs. When you give specs to the subject, that we call as subjective verification. That means the objective estimation may not be the exactly one which the subject accepts. There may be a little variation between the acceptance by the subject or by the person and the objective estimation. So here, as I told you, retinoscopy is nothing but objective estimation of the refractive state of the eye. PMT means post-mydriatic test. That is, for the subjective correction, we will ask the patient after the mydriasis is worn off. That means for the retinoscopy, you need to dilate the pupil. That is called as mydriasis. So retinoscopy will be done in mid-dilated pupil, or the dilatation of the pupil should be done first, then you should do retinoscopy, and the PMT will be done after the mydriasis is again, that means again when the pupil gets constricted. So here how the retinoscopy is being done, you can see. So the mydriatics available for us are atropine sulfate, 1% atropine sulfate, 1% homatropine or cyclopentolate, tropicamide or 10% phenylephrine. In children, we need to give atropine for 2 or 3 days. Atropine sulfate or atropine ointment is applied, and for children, because they are having more accommodative power or the ciliary muscle is strong, the retinoscopy or the estimation of the refractive error should be done by prescribing atropine sulfate, which is most powerful mydriatic. Similarly, homatropine is also for children or up to the or young people. Then in aged one, after 20 years, we may prescribe tropicamide or phenylephrine. These are the mostly used for elderly persons. For phenylephrine is for elderly persons, where the accommodation power is less. So in order to knock out the accommodation power, because if accommodation power is not knocked off, you will not arrive to a correct estimation of the refractive error. So the effect of atropine will last for up to 1 week, whereas the rest of the things, the effect of mydriasis is from minutes to hours only. So what are the prerequisites for retinoscopy? So in order to do retinoscopy, you need a dark room, which the length of the dark room should be at least 20 feet long. Then we need a red bulb, a retinoscopy bulb, a retinoscopy mirror. So we are having either the mirror or streak retinoscopes. Then a mid-dilated pupil. The prerequisite is dilatation of the pupil is a must. Then we need to have a trial frame and trial lenses. So here the picture of the retinoscopes is being given here. One is nothing but a simple plain mirror with a handle, and there is a hole in the center. Then the another one is Priestley Smith mirror, wherein you are having two mirrors. One is plain mirror, the other one is concave mirror. So while doing retinoscopy, the patient is asked to sit at a distance of 1 meter. Why the 1 meter? The purpose of 1 meter is it is convenient working distance is the one easy calculations. That means you know it. What is diopter? Dioptric power. A diopter is nothing but a reciprocation of the focal length expressed in meters. So that is how, if it is calculation is easy. Then how do you do the retinoscopy? The patient will be asked to sit at a distance of 1 meter. Then you throw the light into the patient's eye, either by reflecting a light or self-illuminated equipment like retinoscope. Then you observe the movement of the fundus glow or the retinal glow. You will be able to see the retinal glow in the with the mirror, or if it is streak retinoscope, there is a sharp line, and you can see, you move the retinoscope mirror or streak retinoscope and observe the fundus glow, whether it is moving with the movement or against the movement. That means you move the retinoscope and observe whether the fundus glow is moving to the same side or to the opposite side. If it is moving to the same side, that means the patient is having hypermetropia or emmetropia or myopia of less than 1 diopter. So you neutralize the fundus glow. Neutralization is nothing but you prevent the movement of the glow. So that will be done either by adding convex lenses or concave lenses. So that means if convex lenses are added, the patient is suffering from hypermetropia. Then if the movement is opposite to the direction of the movement of your retinoscope mirror, that means the patient is suffering from myopia of more than 1 diopter. So how you arrive at the neutralization point? There can be bright red reflex, or the entire pupil is filled with reflex glow, or this movement of the observer is nothing. So here you see in the first picture, that is the reflex line, right? So when you add convex lenses or concave lenses, when the complete pupil is filled with the glow, that is the neutralization point. So after arriving to a particular prescription of the lenses, you prescribe the glasses and you do subjective verification. I told you subjective verification is nothing but testing or checking the objective values of the refractive error. So for the spherical error corrections, we need duochrome test, and for the astigmatic errors correction, we need astigmatic fan or cross cylinders. I'll show you what is this duochrome test. See, this is the duochrome test. You can see here in the eye, the red lines, you can see where the wavelength is high, they are coming to a point focus behind the retina, and the blue, they are coming in front of the retina. So after giving correction, you ask the patient to see which colors he is able to see. If he says that the red object, on the side we have shown the colors, if he says that the red one is seen more clearly than the one, that means that is the overcorrection of the eye happened. That means you have to reduce the power in that case. If the patient says that he is visualizing the blue color better, then that means he should be given added convex lenses or plus lenses. Next, for the spherical corrections, spherical lens corrections. See here, in the first one, wherein the red lines coming to a point focus on the retina, that means myopic shift. So you need to reduce the power. And if he sees the blue line, blue color more prominent, that means you should, that myopic shift is hypermetropic shift, what we call. So this is hypermetropic shift. You see wherein the patient will be seeing blue color better than the red color. So accordingly, you must reduce the power of the lenses. Okay, so we have finished the refractive errors. Okay, next class we will deal with the cataract and the different types of surgeries available for the cataract. Thank you.